So dead. That's me, my friend.
All right, and we are live. Welcome to episode number 3. What is in your tackle? Talk show that we discuss what tackle you bring to the table. And today's guest, we have Tim Scott with Epic Catfish, and we have Shawn from Catfish Heroes. Say hi, guys.
How you doing,
What's going on, everybody?
We got 6 wonderful people in here. We've got Ernie Brown. We got Fish in the Mid-South, Thomas Littlepage, Chrissy Brown, and I think Cooks and Hammocks is still in here.
What's up?
Georgia. So, take off. Where do you want to start?
Well, we're
gonna start with weights.
We have so many things. You pick where to start. Doesn't really matter. We can start at big donkey weights, or tiny weights, or little stuff, big stuff, everything in between.
Let's start with your poles and reels.
All right. So, in the boat, we end up carrying on whatever trip we go on to. If it's one of our big epic trips where we're going to the Mississippi and we're, after those big donkey size, fish, 100-pound fish or whatever, we usually bring something like this old rod right here. And this one happens to be a surge rod that I bought about 25 years ago. And you could literally probably catch a 600-pound grouper on it. I mean, it's really one of the most stout, heavy rods you can probably have with a good tip. Because I mean, that's one of the let me fix that. Yeah, that's one of the most important things about that heavy current and 50-pound test. It's got to be able to throw a huge weight. It's got to be able to throw a huge bait. And you have to be able to try to muscle them. I mean, most of the time I lead them until you muscle them underneath the boat. But if you have too stiff of a rod, a lot of times you won't get as many hookups. So the last third of this, if anybody can see this, I've got it torqued down in the yard. The last third of this right here is pretty darn limber. But by the time you get down into here, it's real stout. And I mean, I'm telling you, these rods have taken a beating over the years. Now, see what I'm telling you? So this is an Arsenal reel. It's made by Shakespeare. I bought them a long time ago, if you can see it. And this is I think it's the HD 50 series. Let's see, it's a gear ratio 4:2:1. 190 yards, but I mean, it's got a big beefy reel. It didn't cost too much, and I bought a whole bunch of them. But now they're finally starting to fail, so I bought different ones that we'll talk about a little bit later.
Gotcha. All right, let's go straight into you got your poles. So reels, do you normally try to use it on your currents?
Did you hear that?
What's that, bud?
What kind of reels do you try to use on your poles when you're in that current on the Mississippi?
Well, like I said before, we used to use those big arsenals,
what is it?
But then I bought one of these Chinese jobs here, and it seems to do real good. It's called an ACT 30. Man, this wind is not letting up. We might have to go to the kitchen. I think we should. Because I can't hardly hear you.
Yeah, they're saying the wind is pretty bad.
Yeah.
All right, guys, just kind of hold off just a second.
There's no wind in the kitchen, so we'll just go in there.
Yeah.
Hey, Shawn, grab that box, would you? That's out there. So anybody that's watched any of the stuff I've done. Man, I need a haircut. That's for sure. Anybody that's seen the lives from the kitchen, they're familiar with what's going on right here.
Oh, yeah. We got a few more people came in. Whiskers and Stripes and Liz Wallace. We got a across the pond in the house today. There's Gabby's daddy, and there's Polar Bear. Welcome, guys. 15 people today.
Sorry for not being real.
Fishing with the
we
dad.
both just got back.
That's fine.
I was at work, and I was over there and dealing with the trailer axle and all that stuff. So
I've seen
No
this
problem,
angle
Bob.
I've seen this angle on some late night catfishing shows right here with Epic standing here all groggy eyed looking at the camera.
Yeah, I have to. Yeah, yeah, I have to.
now,
Welcome, Ivan.
miscellaneously find a fillet knife hanging out on the counter. I don't know if anybody would, but that's what happens at my house. We got GoPro cameras everywhere, fishing rods in the corner, and fillet knives just sitting out. We'll talk to him for a little while. I'll go get some of that stuff that we want to share.
Yeah, he's gonna go get some of the props. Some
Yeah,
of the poles, some of
definitely.
the gear that we can talk about. How many we got in chat now?
We got 18.
Nice.
18. Country Boys in, the Chad, Mike Cole.
What's up, guys?
Yep. Georgia Fisherman.
Georgia, what's
Thanks.
up?
Thanks for sharing the link there, Georgia. Yeah, if you haven't got on the Epics page, yeah, definitely get on there. Also, with Shawn's page with Catfish Heroes, definitely get on there. Haslife is in the house.
What's up, Haz?
So talk about this that we used just last night. Talk about what we did last night while I'm getting home.
Oh yeah, last night, right down below his property right here, he has a nice little river down there. So last night we threw it back old school, back to our roots, and we went down here and we got some chubs and we got us some channel cats last night till about midnight or so. We had a good time. It was excellent.
Nice.
Using some nice little small gear, little abu. We were using some ugly sticks, some 5/0 circle hooks, a little bit smaller than that. And yeah, we got onto a few of them last night. It was a lot of fun. Back to the roots, man.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Epic and I both grew up in about the same town here. I was from the country, he was from the town, and we fished all these rivers growing up. It was a good time.
There ain't nothing wrong getting back to the roots.
No, we didn't use any boat gas. We didn't use any truck gas. We didn't burn up no hubs. We didn't do anything like that. We just went right down the hill here. It was a good time.
Oh yeah, definitely. Donald Ware's in the house. Bear with us just guys a little bit while we get some props up and ready to go.
Yep.
When's the next trip?
I think we're going to be doing a Rocky River channel cat trip. The one that was in the, I think it's a Dangerous River or whatever, one of the videos he has. It's one of the places that he's guided for years for the channel cat. And we're going to go, we're going to go up there and brave that and take in the scenery. It's an absolutely beautiful place.
Absolutely.
Beautiful rocky stuff. It's actually gorgeous.
I got a question here for you, actually.
For me?
Yes, for you. It's coming up on the
Congratulations.
screen now. Shawn, how long have you been fishing with Epic?
Well, I did miss a little bit in between, but I think one of the first times I went fishing with him was probably back in 1996. We used to get in his janky little boat and go down to the Illinois River down here and catch shad and go out and catch channel cat. And then we missed a little time in between, but most of this epic stuff, probably since 2016 or so. We've been doing that.
We got Dale Hayslip. We got Sogo in the house.
What's up, guys?
Sogo, you haven't missed much yet, man. So there ain't much to have to go back and listen to. Bunch of wind noise.
Yeah. When it's 80-something degrees here in central Illinois this time of year, you know you're going to have a south wind that just don't quit.
Oh, yeah.
But we sure appreciate the warmth.
Oh, yeah.
We haven't had it in a while.
Yeah.
I was going to say, because one of my buddies over there in UK just put out a video that it's snowing over there.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm over that. I'm over all that. It was a long winter, and I'm ready for good weather. I'm waiting for these fish to fire up and for us to get back at it.
What's your PB, Shawn?
PB what? Which fish?
I guess fish-wise.
Blue cat's like 65 pounds. Flathead's right around 42 pounds or so. Channel cat, let's go. I think it's around 10 pounds or so, something like that.
And we're going to work on that stuff this year.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know, I could have been in the boat that day on that birthday weekend, and I could have grabbed that rod and got that big fish. It haunts me.
Hey, Tim, this one's for you.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Wrong one.
Mike?
Wrong one. There's green whale fishing in the house. There it is. Has Tim ever scared the hell out of Shawn in the boat?
Yeah, he because he doesn't have a prop, you know, in a lower unit like a normal boat. I'm so used to being in a regular boat, and he gets pretty damn close to the bank sometimes. And I'm like, you know, it makes you pucker a little bit, you know.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's just not normal boat logic that I'm used to. He goes anywhere in that thing.
Oh, absolutely.
And one thing about a jet, you got to run it like you stole it.
Absolutely, always.
There is no let off the throttle if you want to maneuver, because it doesn't have anything but forward. I mean, it's either neutral, forward, and you can't just move the tiller and have it direct you. It's got to be under power all the time. So it's pretty aggressive driving.
Oh yeah. There you go. Dan's Creations.
That's great. So far, this is one of the biggest hooks right here that I use. And I'm going to put that into some pretty big catfish spots this year. But I would like to have a couple that are bigger.
Yeah, Dan can make one that we can hook a whole chicken.
Yeah.
Did you see that unboxing from Hooks and Hammocks yet?
Yeah, I saw that.
So those big hooks they had on the side of the thing.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, that was a nice piece of work.
Talented, man.
Oh yeah.
Matter of fact, I've got, of course, a new furniture company coming up online, and I'm going to need some really unique metal work to go with my rustic furniture. So I'm going to be talking to Dan and see what we can come up with. It's going to be pretty cool because I just kind of prefer to work with catfishermen in general.
There you go. We're honest.
That's right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's no bullshit.
No.
It just is what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. I knew you just brought it in. Let's talk about our pool noodle.
Say that again.
Let's talk about the pool noodle. Your hook set.
Pool noodle.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got one that's fixed in the boat that I showed you earlier.
Yeah.
And it's about twice as long as this one, and it's got all my pre-tied stuff on it, so that when I'm in the boat, I don't hardly ever have to tie anything up. As long as I keep up with having all that, tying up all my rigs before I go, unless I need something special. I mean, people have watched my videos where me and the boys are tying rigs and all that stuff. That's because we've been fishing for a couple of days already and used up a lot of that stuff. But generally speaking, I have my double hook rigs, on just kind of a loose thing like this. And these are the big monster donkey stuff. I mean, this is the trailer hook right here, which is a 10-aught Team Catfish. And then this is an Eagle Claw. I believe it's 14 or 16-aught circle hook. So I'll hook the nose bridle up into this, and then I'll put this at the back of the bait. This hook right here. And sometimes I'll even use that aluminum wire that everybody saw Shawn and I using to make the basically the hookups for the big donkey weights. So that when I hook that up, if I get a short bite from a 50-pound fish, a dink 50, then he'll hook up on this back. It takes a pretty big fish to eat this whole thing, and every once in a while they will. And we hope to get onto some fish that will eat the whole thing this year. Now, how I've done this is I've taken 50-pound test. I don't know if you guys can see this, but I've taken 50-pound test, and I put it around this right here, and then I snelled this 200-pound test over top of that. So, I mean, this is just as great as it can be. And then I've got a no-knot snell back here. Now, the thing about these snells, these big ones on this huge stuff, is you got to use super glue on it to keep that no-knot snell together because it's so rigid. I mean, you guys, it's pretty ropey. Now, a dink 50, he says. Yeah, and sometimes they are dink 50s. We're like, oh, geez, another 50. When we're really monster hunting, 50s like, or 47 or what. I mean, you guys have watched our videos. We're like, it's only a 47.
Those are still good fish.
They're great fish. We do love them. But when you got your heart set on an 80, 90, 100-pound fish, yeah. And yes, holy hell, Dan's Creations. And we use this because we fish a lot of sunken ships and underwater metal and all kind. We do a lot of fishing in industrial areas. Tell everybody what you thought, because I mean, I was describing this stuff before I took Shawn on a lot of these adventures, and you just can't get the understanding of really what we're looking at until you see it with your own eyes. And the video doesn't do it justice either.
Yeah, down at Alton where we fish, that's a lot of barge dry dock. There's a lot of industry barge repair. You're talking cables and just really, really cool stuff to look at. But it's talking about having that thick line and not wanting to get cut off, because there is a lot of crap down there.
And, sometimes there's nothing you're going to do about it. You're going to get hooked up into stuff. I was on a sunken barge on the Mississippi one time when I had 3 fish in a row come out from underneath a sunken barge that was underneath the water by 20 foot. And basically come out, get my baits, and race back underneath it. And I was broke off on 50-pound test before I could even snap my fingers. Yeah. So the next thing I tried steel aircraft cable. It's actually about the same thickness as this, but even the steel wouldn't hold up to it. And the steel prevented me from getting as many bites. I mean, there's no doubt. Every time I went in there, I was like, I was hoping for that situation to happen again. And with the steel, it just didn't seem to happen. But with this, I can actually make it happen. Or the fish can make it happen, actually.
Yeah. We got 26 people in the house. We got Lynn came in. Trying to think of who else has came in that I've not mentioned real quick. Roger Anderson's in.
How's it going, Lynn? Good. Kelly, somebody mentioned not too long ago in a live chat, it kind of stuck with me. They said, hey, just imagine what is in Epic's tackle box. And he's kind of right, because I've experimented with so much stuff and I got so much stuff for particular situations that it's kind of a rarity. I'm not saying it's a museum type thing, but it kind of is.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I've got hooks in my boat that I used in South America, and I mean they're big J hooks, like giant J hooks. I've got circle hooks, everything from little dime sized all the way up to 16-aught. I've got all kinds of different lines and different rods and different reels. I really need a boat that's twice as big. And honestly, if my boat's 8 foot wide at the back, if I could run one that's 12 foot wide, I would. Because I like fishing out of the back, and the wider the back of the boat is, and I considered things like pontoons and all that because they were wide, and I even considered making one that once you got on the water, you could actually extend the pontoons and flip some stuff down and do whatever. But I fished too many different areas that a boat like that just wouldn't work. Like the fast shallow water stuff in the springtime, and then this, some of the medium to small rivers with the big rocks and all that stuff, all the way to the Illinois River where it's slow and kind of mid depth, all the way to the Mississippi or the Tennessee that's wide, big, and deep. So if I were a rich man, I would have about 4 different boats. But I had to pick one that would work the best for all situations. And it's expensive to run a jet. There's no doubt. I mean, especially a big jet. It's not too expensive to run like a lighter weight low or something like that with a 60-inch beam. But this thing weighs an incredible amount. Anybody that's, really seen those big, CR Super Johns and run them, they're heavy. I mean, they are. They beat up trailer spindles like nobody's business. So I've got to put a whole new axle on mine just to get to where we can get back to the river. Whole new axle, all new hubs. The tires are fine, thank God. But that's what we might even make a video out of it. I don't know. Turning the boat over, because I hang my entire boat from the rafters in my shed, and then take the trailer out from underneath it. We'll flip the trailer over and do all kinds of stuff. So but these pool noodles, as far as them being cheap, is the best. And here's kind of the secret: these little rubber bands.
Yeah.
Because you can stick the hooks in it, but then the end of this, like on this big stuff, it's just a little loop. Now this has to use. It's so big you can't really tie an overhand knot. So I've got you got to buy the little metal crimpers and the crimping pliers and everything. But on a normal one, 80-pound test or something like that, you just tie a loop. But then I put this rubber band on the end, and I just stretch it around and go back through the hook, and it's really handy. It'll stay real nice. You don't have to worry about it. And I've had, just disastrous messes that I just don't like. So I've been constantly working on that stuff.
Well, for anybody that's going to be making their own rigs ready to go, either be a Santee rig or Kentucky rig or anything like that, if they don't make multiples, they need some way to put them together so they're not messy. So when they're ready to put one on after one breaks off, they need to be able to get to it easy without it having to untie 15 of them. So, the pool noodle thing, I think, is the great way to go. Definitely.
Yeah. And see, now that we do YouTube, now I got a whole nother mess. I got cameras and little things going on. We have different nets for different stuff. So as far as tackle goes, it's pretty, I have 9 different landing nets, of which I don't even like any of them that great. Really, I've got smaller landing nets for this, and I got big landing nets for that, and it catches on everything. If anybody watches our stuff, it catches on everything. And I'm a little tired of that. I used to have a really nice net, big hoop, and very small mesh. But shoot, it's 25 years old. The mesh ended up rotting out of it, and maybe I'll get it remeshed at some point. And it was nice rubber and all that stuff. But generally speaking, this is my entire tackle box right here. It's just one of those Walmart dry boxes. And so I can throw it anywhere. And then I've got my Team Catfish. I got my giant, and this is something that I do that a lot of people don't. I use just the big giant swivels. And a lot of people don't like snap swivels, but you know what? I've caught a lot of giant fish, and I've never had one fail on me, because these things are stronger than the line, believe it or not. And a lot of people, they kind of theorize and they go, well, I just don't like that, how that goes. And I started using them because my guide client's situation was speed was a major factor. I needed to be able to just snap on a new one. Like if like my channel cats, if they were fine with like 5 and 7/0 circle hooks, fine. But if they started getting light bitey and pecky, I could just unsnap that, slap a new 5 on it, or go all the way down to 2. Did you show them that hook that we were using last
Yeah, I didn't really show them the hook a lot.
Okay, so this has saved me a lot of time, a lot of headache, because here I've got, this is basically a big game, which is a lot like an ugly stick. It's a light action, and then I can take one swivel and put that on the line instead of a sinker slider, which has the plastic component, which I've broken off a lot of sinkers because it's plastic. And so I started using these bigger swivels and just clipping like a 2/0 or a 3/0. I mean, these big swivels, you can actually clip this on because it's not too big. But once you get to like the big 12s,
with the big
like this, then you gotta, this thing's got to be considerably bigger. But I've got some that are considerably bigger. Oh yeah, here's some of that wire. This is just the brassy looking stuff. This is a big component to what we do for the big monster fish, but it really doesn't have any application, anything under about 50 pounds. So, I've got everything from 5/0, I've got 3/0, all the way down to dime size. And I should have brought one of those in, because we don't find them very often. I have to order them, but when even big channel cats get finicky, I'll have to go down to a dime size circle hook. I couldn't believe it when it first started happening, but it actually makes a difference, because I'd fish all day, the bite would go south, they'd drop the water, and all of a sudden my big fish would go to peck it, just like this. But put a dime size circle hook and a little tiny piece of shad, as long as it had guts in it, as long as it had good slime coat, kind of bloody, not too old, man, we start catching them again. And all the other rods that we left with a 5/0 and a bigger chunk, just taps. And one of these days, we're going to do a video how to demonstrate how to get those big channel cats to fully commit, because I see a lot of videos, and I said this on somebody else's chat the other day, I see a lot of videos where people are waiting for those channel cats or blues in that it's not very good weather, it hasn't been very warm, it hasn't been whatever, and all of a sudden they're waiting for them to take that rod down, and they just won't. And I'll switch over to I've got a couple other weapons that I didn't even bring out. They're almost like salmon trolling rods, and I have like 2 of them. And sometimes those 2 rods will outproduce the rest of the 4 that I've got out, 3-1, 4-1, 5-1. Sometimes 5-0, 10-0, 20-0, because they're so limber. They'll suck that bait in, and then it'll give them confidence because they can go back. Other times I have to take the rod out of the rod holder and actually feed it down to them, and they're 10-pound fish or 15-pound fish. And a lot of my customers that don't know,
it's almost like feeding them.
What's that?
I said it's almost like you having to put the food in their mouth for them.
Yes, because they'll come up and tap it. They'll pop that thing, they'll pop the guts out, and they'll leave it. But if it's more free flowing, and how I figured that out is I had that 1,000-gallon tank in the garage. So when I'd feed them, I started thinking, okay, why did they just, you just throw the little shad, like I'd bring my bait home from a guide trip and throw the baits in. And I had current in there so that, you throw the bait in and it would wash right past them like this, and they'd suck it right in, no problem. Until I put a line on it. No hook, just a line. And I gave them a little bit of pressure. They'd hit it and they'd spit it. Sometimes they'll hit and spit no matter what. But when it has a little bit of pressure, you have to release that pressure sometimes to get them to fully commit. And that's the difference between catching 3 fish in a day and 30 fish in a day sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's that numbers game. If you take clients out, you take people out, just your buddy or whatever. If you caught 3 fish in a day, it's okay. You catch 30 fish in a day, and they're jumping up and down. Isn't that right?
Yeah. Keep that morale up in the boat.
Yeah.
But as far as gear, I don't think I've ever seen anybody, which he's the most serious fisherman I've ever hung around. He's got hooks. He's got hooks and setups for pretty much every kind of species of fish. The guy's not just a catfish. I mean, he's a fish brain, 100%. And I think that, being a successful catfisherman, being able to have the subtleties to be able to catch some of these timid bait fish like these suckers and stuff out of these small streams, he's honed that, to that point where he can go out and find these baits, and these baits can make the difference.
So here's something else on my counter, Kelly, and you'll appreciate this. Shawn, look at these. These silver. They smell so good you can just eat them. I'll do a chunky.
Yeah. Hey, I got you something better. I got you something better.
Whatever. When they came out with these, it was kind of a little game. Yep, there you go. A little game changer.
I got those.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The trophy catfishing is one aspect of it, and he's excellent. He's great at it, but all around,
Shawn's pretty darn good too. I'll tell you that.
As an all-around fisherman, I don't care if you're going for pike, largemouth bass, smallies. I mean, he's just an all-around fisherman. He's a fish brain, really.
And since he said that, I'm going to take him on more trips. See, that's how this works.
Hey, don't forget about me. We've done talked about this. We've got to hit the Cumberland.
Say again.
A couple times. So we got to hit the Cumberland a couple times. So don't forget about me.
Oh, the Cumberland. Oh, Shawn and I just drove over that when we went down to Alabama, and it looked fantastic. It looks like, and I've seen a lot of rivers. I've done a lot of traveling. I've been a lot of places, but that place looks like you could target, key in and target on play. If you hit it at the right time and the right water level, I think you could have 20 flathead days, 20 flatheads in a day, because I saw how the current, I saw the obstructions in the water, and you can tell the depth of a river by looking at it. Yeah, I got a quick story to tell you. So when I was young, like 6 years old, and whenever we would go on a family trip, of course it was always 3-4 hours, and I would tell my parents, I would ask them, beg them, wake me up when we go over a river or a creek or whatever. And most of the time they did, because I was glued to that. I would stick my head out the window and I would stare at this river. And, even driving over one, you can tell how the current is. You can tell the clarity of the water. You can tell what's going on. And sometimes, just like on the road that we went over the Cumberland, you can see the dam. You can see the water that's coming out. You can see how that water moves. So I would look upstream. I would look downstream and say, oh, there's wood there. There's whatever. Now, that was a little bit later, probably 10, 12, 13, 14, 15.
Yeah.
But now I see catfish. We went to the Wisconsin Dells with my kids when they were like 8 and 6 or whatever. And we took one of those duck tours, and all I could think about was flatheads, because I saw how the rocks and I saw the current, and there's no depth finder on one of those little tour boats, but you could tell that when it was coming from a narrow and it was swirling around, there's a nice hole there. And Shawn and I are going to go fish that river, because I think it's going to be awesome. There might not be 80-pound flatheads in it, but we might, get on days where we catch 3 over 40, 1 over 50, and a whole bunch of 20s and 12s and 4s and 5s. So we're pretty excited about that.
You have a fishing addiction when you can't not go over a bridge and try to look all the way down as much of the water as you can.
I catch myself doing that now a lot.
I'm looking at the water, man. I'm looking at that water.
And I think everybody in this chat right now is the same way. And you know what? I love it. I love the fact everybody's excited about catfish. They're excited about fishing. They're excited.
I guarantee Muskrat is. I guarantee Roger with Muskrat. I guarantee he does that.
Say that again, Kelly.
I said I guarantee Roger with Muskrat Adventure does that.
Yeah.
Every time he goes up a bridge, he's looking at the water. He's looking at.
Yeah. Even a small dumb creek, I'm looking.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at crazy. Okay, bait fish.
That's a bait fish spot, yes, sir.
I'm not a giant fan of 3-ways because I think they're a little tangly, but I still use them on occasion. We got the the big, I mean, the gigantic circle hooks. We got the little ones, and in every tackle box I've got bobber stops, these little neoprene bobber stops like this, because sometimes you need them. I've got beads that I buy from Walmart out of the craft section, because fishing beads, they're no different than this. This is just for junk necklaces, and it cost, you can get 1,000 of them for $4 instead of paying what they want you to pay.
Yeah, it's like I think I think 10 of those for like $3 or $4 for like 10. I think in the sporting goods.
Or 5,000 of them for $3.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is really my go-to for most of the year, which I know might disappoint some people. This is just a 3-ounce egg sinker. Matter of fact, this might even be a 2. This is a 3. Oh, here's an invention of mine right here. See this sinker? So through the neck, I poured a swivel into it. Okay, so I can take this swivel and just clip it on my line anytime I want. So if I need a 2, if the bite's real light, I can go down to a 2, but I can take this 3-ounce and slap it on. I can add an extra 3 ounces to a 6 and make it 9 if I need to.
Yeah.
And so this will be, running up and down my line, and then we can do that. Now, if Mike Greenwell's still in here, he knows what that is. So here's your basic dragon sinker, and I'm pretty sure some people use them for bumping because it's cylindrical. It's not going to snag up as much, and you can do your 3-way off of that. Maybe he'll make a comment. Here's a secret. I'm gonna whip a secret out on your chat. How many people's in chat right now?
A secret. Uh-oh.
How many people's in chat, Kelly?
18.
Okay, I'll whip the secret out. But you see a little tiny hook on the end? I'll get it right over Catfish Heroes' hat.
Yeah.
You know what that is?
That's used to do needle point.
It is. So I can take this. You know what? I might just get something out of the refrigerator and demonstrate this, because this is actually brand new. Here we go. I haven't used this one.
Yeah, that thing. That looks like something. That's crazy looking right there. I seen that at a footstool one time.
Yeah. Chrissy Brown says crocheting. That's a crocheting hook.
All right, we'll just do it on an apple. I was going to get the Easter ham out.
Uh-oh. Yeah, all these things and all these different setups and all this gear, it comes from all the pressure he's felt from being a guide for years and trying to change up situations and getting fish in the boat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right, I'm going to do this tournament secret, which I've never talked about publicly, even in articles or anything like that. So what I've done here is all I've done is tied 2 overhand knots.
Here, I'm gonna give you the whole page.
All right. So watch this right here. Okay. So I've got 2 overhand knots. All right. 2 loops. And I'll take my bait, which is an apple. I don't know where Shawn set that thing, but I got another one in here. So let's just say I'm pre-fishing. All right. So since I'm pre-fishing, wow, this lighting is kind of terrible. Let me change that a little bit. All right. So I'm going to take this, just say this is a big chunk of bait. I'm going to just poke this thing straight through it like that. All right. Then I'm going to take the one side, what did I do with it? Might have to tie another one. Nope, here it is. Take one side with this needle. I'm going to put it on this loop. Okay. And I'm going to pull it through just like this. So now I've got my bait with no hook. All right. So then I'm going to take these 2 loops and I'm going to snap them. Let me get a rod here. I'm going to take my hook off. Then I'm going to take each loop and I'm going to snap these to my loop. Both loops, I should say. Now I've got a rig that has no, gosh, this is weird backwards. It doesn't have a hook on it. But I don't need a hook to tell how big a fish is when he bites it, because I know the wavelength, I know how hard it's going down. I know if most of the time, I'm not saying I do, but the worst thing to do is pre-fish within a few days of a tournament and sting up all your fish, or have anybody else sting up all your fish. So what you want to do is you want to have those secret spots where you know big fish are there because you've done fed them. They've hit it in that wavelength, especially with flatheads, or especially with blues. It's a little hard to tell with the channel cat, but you can kind of tell the wavelength of the bite, that if you're on big fish or not. So one of the worst things to me is A, feed a tournament fish, and B, sting up a tournament fish. If you sting up a tournament fish, they could be inactive for 3 days after that. And if you're within that window, or they could actually, and I know this from being a guide, because I've got my epic spots, and if I hammer the epic spots too much, or if I end up inadvertently feeding them, it'll be tougher the next day, and it'll be almost impossible the 3rd day. So this little technique right here has been one of the biggest things. If you want to go find fish but not destroy the chance of actually landing on tournament day, this is what you want to use. Now, I'm not saying you have to. Everybody's got their things, but that is one of my secrets for being able to find out what fish are there and not ruin your chances on tournament day. All right. Live show's over. I just gave up one of the biggest secrets in catfish.
Yep, no more. Done. Shut it down. Shut it down now.
Shut her down. It's over.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
Talk to Shawn about flathead fishing in one of the most unique spots that I've ever seen. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So up here in north central Illinois, I have a canal system that runs between the Illinois River and the Mississippi River. They put in it's a feeder from the Rock River, but it was to join the 2 big rivers for hauling hauling freight
barges.
Freight, yeah. They're just narrow little channels they put in there, but
it was hand dug. I mean, these people dug it by hand.
Steam shovels, and it was like a major deal with the cement and this and that. But I'm gonna get some footage of that this year to show those the locks that I fish, because Epic, a few years back, I was down there with my son, and he shows up, and like I said, he can catch just about any fish, and he does it well, because being a guide, he has to have numbers and numbers of bait fish. So he showed me how to catch these bluegills at this place, and catch them efficiently, and how to take care of them, because there's flatheads in there. So he kind of got me addicted, and I'm telling you, I do this 3-4 times a week once the flatheads wake up here and things start happening, and it's become a family affair. I have my girlfriend goes out there, I have uncle, my son, I have a bunch of people go out there with me, and we throw out our poles at the right times, right before dark, with nice lively bluegills on there. And I've actually graduated up. I used to use little flashlights trying to shine my pole, and that wasn't very good. But finally, I found these little glow necklaces. They're like 22-inch glow necklaces they sell at Walmart for partying, for raving, clubbing, whatever. But you crack those things and you throw those on the end of your rod. I just use a little electrical tape, and you can see your rod load up from a long ways away. You can see what's going on, and it's been an addiction now, and I've heard tell the old timers talking that there's 50, 60,
Oh yeah.
50s, 60s, and 70s in there. But in my 7 years of doing it hard, we I think the biggest fish we've got was like a 49 or 50. But those are big fish and very exciting stuff.
So now I'm going to toot Shawn's horn. So Shawn, I met him at the canal years and years ago. And he was with his son. And his son was just a little tyke back then. They were trying to catch bluegills. And I kind of was catching bait. And so I've got a little special technique that I use, little tiny bobbers, little lightweight stuff, and just, 30-second ounce jigs and a wax worm. There's a lot of bluegills in that canal that he fishes, but they eat those little tiny bugs. And we may even show those in some videos. They grow on like the sides of lock walls. They grow on sticks. They're those. Everybody that's been a catfisherman, you hook a stick, you bring it in the boat, and all of a sudden you got these little grub things falling off the stick.
Like a little large.
That's what they eat. They're tiny. And so I wheeled up there, and I need to catch 500 baits in a day. So 500 bluegills is not easy. But once you learn the techniques and where they're going to be, really active. So I went in there and popped like 25 bluegills, and I was like on my way out, and I talked to Shawn. I said, Shawn, there's flatheads in here. And I said, here's some 3-ounce sinkers, and here's some big hooks, and here's some whatever. Go to town. And dude, I'm telling you, this guy is probably the most prolific canal fisherman ever. It's 20 miles from his house. Every night after work, he'll even have live baits, at his workstation.
I go out on break and catch bluegills. I got a little bait thing I put right next to my toolbox and actually aerate bluegills ready to go, because when I get there, I want to have my baits ready and ready to rock.
And, in the canal is one of those things. You're not in a boat. You are at the mercy of the fish. So it is a science experiment extraordinaire because
you're breaking up a little bit.
Stationary in the lock or moving. And you get to figure out the timing of what's going on. There's trends. There's a bite at, and I'll let you tell this because it's been 20 years since I really fished a lot.
Yeah, so in the summertime when it's hot, you show up there about an hour and a half before dark, and you get all your baits, and you start putting your gills down, and then right when that light change happens, that's when I find that flatheads really do their thing.
And then you got a secondary bite.
Sure.
And it's all based on that flathead movement, and a lot of people like to talk about the moon phase. Well, the canal is fairly shallow. And once that moon, and it's like clockwork, because this guy might fish it 3, 4, 5 days a week, sometimes 6, 7 days a week. He's dedicated. So he's been there when that moon comes above those trees. He almost catches no big fish. It's almost it's rare to catch any fish, but most of the time it's going to be small. All of his big fish usually come when it can be a full moon as long as it's behind the trees and not shining on that light. So when I was younger, I used to take a Coleman lantern, set it there so I could see everything shining on the water, and that's pretty much why we didn't do very well. It's the same thing, at this little river. You shine the light on the water, no bites.
That's where the glow sticks came in because we keep it completely dark around there. When you're checking your poles, you're not going up there with a flashlight shining it down in the locks because the locks is really where the draw is. There's massive current. There's water flowing over. And that's where they come to do their deal.
Lee Evans said, are those canal locks high wall?
Yeah. They're probably about, 15 feet?
Yeah.
About 15 feet high walls and good, a lot amount of water flowing over into the locks.
I would love to write size requirements. And you know what? I actually did a stint where I worked with the DNR about sensible regulations because, and let's talk about flatheads because they're really the most important as far as regulations goes because they're a self-limiting population. So this self-limiting population means that big flatheads eat little flatheads. Little flatheads want to be where big flatheads are. So they're like wolves. So it's not like they're not cohabitants. They are everything to a big flathead is food. So it eliminates small flatheads so that the bigger ones have a bigger share of the population and the food source and all of this stuff. So it becomes a problem when we decide what we should take and eat in any mass numbers. Like you could literally, if there was enough flathead fishermen, they could really hurt the population of big fish, which also, and Shawn knows this, there's certain pools in the canal, since there's a lock that they can't cross, certain pools have been overpressured, and now you have scads of 5-pound fish and no big ones. So he's had to go to extreme lengths, like walking 2 miles to go to locks, not everybody else's fish. All the locks that are really accessible to anglers, they end up getting basically fished out of big fish, which creates a population explosion of 5 to 15-pound fish. And if you're not into 5 to 15-pound fish, you just might as well forget it. I don't know anybody that drives 2 or 3 states away to go catch 5 or 15-pound fish.
No.
Will drive 2 or 3 states away if you got a shot at good 50-pound fish. So it's just a whole equation on economics. So I mean, are you going to drive to Illinois to fish the Spoon River and catch 5 to 10-pound channel cats? No. You're going to go to the James River for big blues, or you're going to go to the Tennessee River for big blues, or you're going to go to the Mississippi for big flatheads, or whatever. And I'm telling you, it's an economic boom because, when I used to guide, I would guide, 24, 25 days a month. And a lot of my customers were from Chicago, but I had some fly in from Australia. I had some from New York. I had some from, I had a couple in from Japan. I've had a lot of people from around the world come and fish with me because I showed that you could catch big fish on a pretty fair average. It wouldn't be 80 hours for one fish over 30 pounds. It would be there's a pretty good shot you're going to catch a fish with me. When I'm flathead fishing, real good chance, almost a guarantee of 25 or 30 pounds, and then you have those shots at sometimes back-to-back 50s, back-to-back 60s, sometimes at 70, sometimes at 80, stuff like that. Because I would post every trip on a message board. This time of year, 60-degree water temp, murky water, are you fishing the high current or the timber? Okay, so Thomas Littlepaint, I'm glad you brought this up because right now, depending on where you're at, it's going to be different. Like right now, Shawn and I do not have to fish wood. All we have to do is basically throw out as far as channel cats goes. If we're going to go target flatheads right now, we have to go to basin holes. They're not set up on wood yet. We're still at 50 degrees, but at 60 degrees, then the flatheads start moving towards those pre-spawn locations. And it's all practice is what it is. They're doing it early because the early bird gets the worm. And believe this or not, most of the big fish, big fish, do their spawning first because they can. They're like bulls in china shops. They can eliminate other fish. They can set up, and a lot of the big females come in early. The end of the spawn is when you have your smaller fish taking up the scraps. So I would say at 60-degree water temperature, and maybe he can answer this. What part of the world is Thomas Littlepage in? What does he fish? What kind of river? So we'll wait for that answer and talk about something else because then I can fully explain that a little bit better.
Wasn't it? I thought they were from Indiana or something. I can't.
And it may be. So
I can't remember.
Let's talk a little bit about your weights.
What's that?
I said while we're waiting on his answer, let's talk about your weights.
We'll talk about the weights. All right. Go to town, Shawn.
Come on, Shawn.
If you watch any of the catfish, these are the donkey weights, and he generally uses these on down rods in high current when he's sitting on in deep water. When he's sitting on a spot and he's seeing these catfish are a little bit higher off the bottom, and we start throwing down rods. This is what he'll use to hold these in place, hold those baits right in their face, and hopefully, the down rods are the funnest way to catch a good cat.
So let's imagine this. You've got a swivel, which I don't have anything set up like this, but I'll have a dropper on this. Let me back up. I'll have a dropper on this, maybe a foot and a half, and then I've got a swivel, and then something like this is trailing the bait off, and we'll use the apple as the bait. Okay. So I've got that donkey bait down. This isn't here. It's just an overhand loop attached to the same swivel. So this thing will be trailing in the current up as high as I need to focus, depending on what I've seen on the fish finder. So if I see fish at 1.5, 2, 3 feet off the bottom, I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna use the donkey weight to hold it straight down because I've got a fairly big line, 50-pound test. And usually we're in 25 foot or more, sometimes 50, 60. And you know what happens if you have, I'd gotta add some more to that. So if you're going to have this be positioned effectively, you've got to have a big enough weight to hold that. Now, I can use weights like this as long as I throw it back off the back of the boat far enough. But sometimes that means 60, 50, 60, 70 yards. And you've really got to be able to triangulate that. Remember where you saw the fish. Look at your, in my case, a jet wash. Look at your jet wash. Do all the stuff, because I don't really use a bunch of, what do they even call that?
What, those little buoys?
I'm a boomer. Now where you hit the thing.
Oh, waypoints.
Waypoints. I don't use a bunch of waypoints. I do old-fashioned, old school. So, sometimes I might be, especially with a 50-pound test. Now, if I'm using braid, I can be a little bit closer. But with that heavy current like that, sometimes I got to go up so far because I have 200 feet of anchor rope out, and then throw another 60 yards or 50 yards, 80 yards, and then let it out to go another 20 yards just to get in front of their face. Now, that comes with years of experience and, being a catfish psycho like I am. But, but people can learn it. I think anybody can learn it. You don't have to. I'm not special. I'm just really, really set on catching these big fish. There's hardly any time when I'm out in the water. Southern Indiana. Okay. The White River. Okay. So, matter of fact, Thomas Littlepage, I know some guys that fish the White River. So, yes, right now, you do want to focus, if you're targeting flatheads, you do want to focus on some wood. You do want to hit some basin holes because it is only 60 degrees. But once it hits 70, they'll be in full tilt on the wood. They'll be on the wood, on the rocks. You want to throw a little bit farther away from it because hopefully they'll come out. But if they won't, you throw in, spend 20 minutes on a spot, and move. Now, if he's offshore, there's not much you can do about that. You can move, but you're going to have to pick your spots that has the right cover so that you can do well. Now, if the fish are moving, everybody can catch fish. But when they're stationary, that's the difference. All right, so what was I talking about before? I was talking about the big donkey weight. So we've hooked up our big, and honestly, the bigger the bait is, if it's hand size like this and not really very streamlined, the more weight you got to have. Now, if it's a 6-inch strip, more like a, what if I got a glizzy hanging around? What do we do with those?
Yeah, glizzy. Like a glizzy.
We'll use a potato. All right, so good thing we got the fridge right.
Welcome, Fishing Frustration. Ace is in the house.
Okay, very good. Okay, so now this is more streamlined, which I'm not saying catfish eat potatoes, but this is more streamlined. So this is going to sit in the current a little bit better so I can get by with less weight if I have to. So I'll go to a 10 or a 12 or those 10s or 12s.
You might put it back in
Might
there.
have put it back in there. Nope. I might not have brought one out. I had it brought out. Yep, there's one. Okay, so I might use just a normal 12, or even if the water's low enough, I might even get by. Well, I almost never get by with a 5. If I'm behind a wing deck, sometimes I will. But like a 10, like a tandem like this on my dropper, then I may have some distance to it, but then I'm going to be able to, and sometimes I'll use a 24 or 30-inch dropper because I can just lower it and it'll get close because there'll be like the weight will be here, and then it'll actually bow down, and I can let it down enough to where that'll actually be back on the bottom again. So I tighten it up to raise it up, loosen it to get it middle, loosen it to get all the way to the bottom. And it really pays off because sometimes you got to be higher in the current, sometimes you got to be lower in the current. And you know, with Heroes and I,
look in your fish finder, and if
if they're coming
those
through
beasts
the
are
boat,
off the bottom like that, I mean, and it's amazing. I love to see those rods crash on the down rods. There's nothing better than that. Nothing better than that.
Huh. Ace fishing, ace catfishing. There you go, Epic.
Epic, you need a smaller tater for duck fishing.
for what kind of fishing?
Duck fishing.
I don't know what that is, but maybe he means dock fishing.
Yeah, probably. Avid's in the house. Welcome, Avid.
What's up?
Greenwell said something earlier or something. Let me see if I can find his comment here.
He's probably telling us we need to go bump it.
Probably.
That's
No.
his comment with Thomas. He says, "Me too." Said I'm setting on getting bigger fish in the river.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I would like to say that I named my channel Epic Catfish because that's how I think about it. It's not always what we do, but that's how I think about it. I want to be at the pinnacle of the epic spots at the right place and the right time. And I've said that in my videos. Now, I can go to some of these places I've landed multiple 50s, lots of 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 100, 120, 130 pound fish. But you got to look at it realistically in the middle part of of Illinois. We're in that breadbasket where that cold water that cold air swoops down from Canada, and it goes back up and enters back into the ocean way up above New York. So that East Coast and West Coast is nice and warm. They're a month and a half, 2 months ahead of us. We have a very short window, and I'm not complaining. I'm just saying I have to be realistic. So just remember, everybody that's listening, just be realistic on what you've got, because there'll be times that there is really not a prayer of catching big fish. Ours, especially blues, are so they're so migratory oriented that there's times that we don't even have big fish up here. We have 20s, we got 30s that hang around. But as far as 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, they're all down south. Now, I'm not saying they're down as far south as Creole's area, but I'm betting they are, because I predict Creole's going to be catching some big fish here in the future.
Definitely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What else we got? Any other questions?
Anybody's got questions, definitely put them up there so we can figure out if you got any questions about tackle.
All
what else we got here, Tim?
I'll
And,
just expose a new rod I've got that I really like.
That's fine. Go for it.
Toys.
So we got some toys.
Yep.
So we got a Rippin' Lips, and this happens to be a if I can see,
8-footer.
it is. It's an 8-foot Rippin' Lips. You can tell it's a blank through handle. It's got the extra long handle, and this actually has a Pen 20 LW on it. And I plan on using this for flatheads, because it's a real flatheads. You don't need a real flimsy tip rod. Stiff rods actually help me catch flatheads more because of my style. Anybody can do whatever they want to, as far as, if they like more limber rods, that's fine. But as soon as I see that initial tap, I'm going to pick that rod up on a flathead. And this is for a big rod. This is plenty lightweight to hold. Here, let me step back here. It's plenty lightweight to hold, and basically either feed a fish down or just basically set the hook. So you've got that situation. Let me here. Okay. So now that didn't work. All right. So with this, if I notice that this isn't very, but I notice that initial flathead tap is more like this, and then it may load up just a little bit like this. I'll pick that rod up out of the rod holder, noticing what I've got on the end of my line, whether I've got a fish that didn't spit, whether I've got a fish that's just sitting there, or I've got a fish that's small, or I've got a big one. And a lot of guys like to leave those in the rod holders. Well, I don't, because I know that there's days, if you just leave them in the rod holders, you're not going to catch squat. And that's kind of the goofy part about flathead. It depends on what their activity level is. Sometimes they're hitting it, and every single bite you're hooking up, and it's awesome and whatever. But then the next day it's really rough. So keeping your mind open to the fact that big fish can bite light, and taking every bite serious puts more big fish in your boat. That you can take to the bank, no matter where you're at. It doesn't matter if you're on the Tennessee, on the Mississippi, if you're, wherever you guys fish. Taking every bite seriously, like they're big fish, puts more big fish in the boat. Because I'm telling you, there's things I've done that I wish I didn't. And there's bites, there's things that haunt me, and then there's triumphs where a big fish bit so light, and it ended up being 80 pounds. And it's pretty crazy, but it's true.
That's good to know. Because you don't know if you're just getting snagged on something or what. So each little pull on that tip,
yep,
you need to expect that's that big fish on that bait every single time.
That's true. That's absolutely true. And it's whether you got potato size baits or whether you got little baits. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
This is actually, and this is why I call some of my baits that I use for flatheads potato chips, because they're actually about the silhouette of this. Little bluegills, little whatever, but I need to use those in that faster water current situation with the right sinker attached, so I can position and I can ledger in the fish's face. Because if I'm waiting for him to come to me, it just doesn't work every day.
Yeah.
It works, especially with flatheads, it doesn't work all that much very often unless you are in a very prolific fishing situation.
Yeah.
That there's lots of flatheads and nobody's really putting pressure on them.
Yeah.
But if people are putting pressure on them, you got to be good.
Yeah. Thomas is going to say, what is the spawning range for flatheads and blues?
The spawning range?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, spawning range, in the middle part where we're at, the height of the spawn starts right about July 4th. So depending on who's asking, if you're farther south, it'll happen as much as 30 days before that. So that would be May 4th. If you're farther north, it's going to be about a month lag. If you're up in Wisconsin, Minnesota area, it's going to be a month later. So it's going to be August 4th. It's really kind of a cool thing. It's all based on the diurnal system where the sunlight controls more. The water temperature will exacerbate it. It'll speed it up. But if you have normal water conditions, usually the pre-spawn lasts about an entire month before it really heats up. Now, if you get really exorbitantly hot water, it can squeeze that window down to 2 weeks. Or it can just, if you got too much high water, it can move them off of the river, and it can actually, with flatheads, it can actually postpone the spawn till next year. Believe that or not. Everybody that's kept flatheads knows that sometimes in August you have flatheads with eggs. Well, those are ones that weren't able to spawn, or maybe there wasn't a successful spawn. And that's the thing about top end predators; they have to have the right conditions at the right time. Otherwise, it's fruitless.
Yeah. And go back to what we were talking about, them that the little nibble we see could be that big one. Ernie said, because this is they can bite it and lay there and not move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I agree with that.
I've had blues do really weird bites as well. like they'll tap it, especially during daylight hours. Let's just say you've set up on a spot, you've marked good fish, and you throw out. You got great baits, current's right, everything's right, timing's right, and all of a sudden, all you're getting is these weird little taps. It's not like tap. It's more like this, and then they just let up. I know after that they're just not going to bite during the day because I've already marked the area and there's no small fish in it. It's all big fish.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll come back sometimes. I'll move to a different area and come back, and I'll tell my clients or Shawn or whoever else, I'm like, don't worry, there's big fish there. They're just not ready to eat yet. So we go back, reposition, and it's on like Donkey Kong. I mean, it's giant fish everywhere, and that's all we catch. And you know, when I do those adventure trips with clients, I will go early and I'll scout the area because I can. Because a lot of times they're not getting there till noon. I'll go out at 9. I'll get there at 9 and take about a 3-hour tour of looking at the river. And there's many times when you know, I've said, hey, it's not looking good, or it's looking like the best I've ever seen. And when it looks right, I'm usually never wrong. Yes, I mean, I'm telling you, we've had some just fantastic trips when I'm marking fish in the proper location, the right spots. I'm marking them in active position. That means head down, tail up. I'm not seeing this. I'm not seeing just a bunch of lackadaisical stuff. If I'm seeing them in that feeding mode, that means that I need to get on those fish right now. Now, if I see them just flatlined like this, just kind of moving, hovering, or sitting in place, you know, by the time summer hits, it's going to be a night bite. And there's been a few times when it should have been a day bite, but it was still a night bite. Shawn's been on those trips. Oh, yeah. We filmed a couple. We're like, we were convinced because it got cold enough and the fish were in position right, but they weren't active position. They were just sort of lackadaisical, you know, just kind of hanging out. And boy, I mean, we put baits in front of their faces and they wouldn't do anything. You might as well have been throwing on carp. But I know they were catfish because that was their location. So, you know, but we go to the epic spot at the right time and, you know, you beat up on 30, 40, 50, 60-pound fish. Just is, it is the nature of everything. I wish they bit every time I put a bait in front of them. But if you're not putting baits in front of them and they're having to come to you, you're going to do even less of that, you know, epic spot on the spot stuff. I mean, you still, it's a triangulation. It's you know, you got to have that combination in your mind and go and do and look. And once you get that, you can really kind of circumvent that stuff that I used to have years ago. Like, what do I do now?
Yeah.
Now I don't have enough time in a day to do all that I know to do. It's just, am I going to get into that combination of great spot and doing the right thing at the right time so that we don't, you know, have a lackadaisical or, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4 fish trip. I want to catch the most big fish I can catch. And a lot of times you run out of time because, I mean, there's been times when there's only 1 or 2 things actually going on and they're not all that cooperative, even though you can be at great spots. You can be on the Tennessee River, one of the greatest fisheries that there is for blue cats on the planet. And all of a sudden you've run out of time because you either, you know, there just wasn't enough time to get to everything. So everybody in chat, don't feel bad if you're not catching big fish. It's the chase that matters. It is the Captain Ahab mentality. It's that I'm going to prevail. I'm going to win. Yep. And you know what? I'll get a little.
If not today, tomorrow, I'm gonna sing you up. I'm gonna take your picture and let you go. And I'm gonna let you go.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna get you. Yep. Now Epic has the pressure of keeping a smile on my face most of the time. Now you don't want to see me all sad in the boat, you know.
Yeah, but I'm the worst of all.
He does.
I get all stoic and all mad and whatever. It's a game of chess,
dude.
I'm right, Muskrat Adventures.
I'm conditioned. I can sit for hours, which most of the time it's just socializing, sitting in a chair when you're bank fishing with your buddy. You know, you get a good buddy, you get good snacks, and you put your time in. And I'm so conditioned to that, I can sit there for hours on end, you know. And Epic, he starts getting that inner alarm going off in his head. He's like, oh my God, we need to have an action. He's ready to start snoozing if we don't have a bite within 10 minutes, because he still has that psycho guide mentality where he has a client that's paying him money and staring at him.
Yeah.
And I do believe he used to have a guarantee if they didn't get whatever the criteria was, they didn't pay. So all that pressure that he was under, which he thrives off of it, he does, but that's made him who he is as a fisherman now. That's why a few years back, I started going to the big Mississippi River fishing with him, and I was taken aback. I was like, I can't believe how awesome what you're doing here is. I go, you need to be on YouTube, dude. He's like, really? I'm like, yeah, definitely. Because I watched Chris Flores for a long time. I watched Catfish Dave. I mean, I watched, that's what I watched on YouTube was fishing. And I'm like, well, I think I need to see Tim Scott on there. So it's been exciting, very exciting to see this. I mean, there's not a class that you take when you start a YouTube channel. It's something that he's getting better at and better at because he's meticulous and he wants to get it right. So yeah, anybody that watches Epic Catfish, you got all the editing and the time and all that stuff that he puts in there. I mean, people really don't understand that either because to make good videos isn't as easy as some people might think. I've learned a lot.
And thank you, Becca, for the $50 PayPal support. I appreciate that definitely. Make sure everybody's in chat. Make sure you do share this out. Hey, Stan, the man fishing, Becca, share this out. Give us a thumbs up. Make sure if you're not on Epic's or on Shawn's page, Epic Catfishing or on Catfish Heroes, make sure you do sub them tonight. Let's get Shawn up there and his numbers. I don't know where his numbers are at, but even though he's mostly on Epic's show, he does have his own. So make sure that we are.
Shawn talked me into doing Epic Catfish. He's like, dude.
Yeah, that's what he was talking about.
Do it. I'm like, well, I don't know, blah, 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 because I didn't know how to edit any videos. I didn't know how to film anything. You ought to have seen the clown show that we did in the first part trying to video.
Oh, that's like I was telling him. I mean, it's not when you get cameras and you're going out there and you're trying to implement the filming of what you've been doing for years, sometimes the filming takes a back seat. But if you really want this to translate into a good video, you have to focus on what you're going to go out there and do and what kind of video you want to make. That's what we're learning that too.
Yeah. And, even last night, there was times when I turned the camera on. I thought I turned it on and I turned it off. I was talking to you on the phone the other day when I caught that giant pike. And it was on and I didn't realize it. I thought I was turning my chest camera. I thought I was turning it on, but I turned it off. I don't know if I got the film or not, but it was a giant epic deal. Great, all this stuff. And all I was doing is shore fishing at my father-in-law's place in a backwater, 2 foot deep, no nothing. And I ended up catching some great fish, but I'm not sure if I got it on film. And really, there's been a lot of stuff that that didn't make it. Like a lot of those trips you see, like 3 or 4 fish or 2 or 3. There was 10 other or 20 other fish that didn't make the cut because maybe the wind was too much or maybe whatever, and maybe we'll talk about this, in our future videos. But I do like to put out kind of a slick, kind of fun, kind of, you get some comments, you get some music, you get some whatever, and really try to get the feel of the overall gist of the trip. What was it a hard trip? Was it an easy trip? Was it fun? Was it a one of those almost impossible things and you prevailed? I like the emotion of it. Now, some people probably don't appreciate that. They just like to see a straight up whatever, but I make videos for myself, and if people like them, I like that. But if they don't, that's fine. They can watch somebody else.
And he just joined YouTube like in October, and all this stuff. Epic Catfish is going to get better and better as he goes.
Oh yeah.
When he has time and when he can make it happen, all of us, anybody who has a channel, you're only going to get better.
Everybody's getting better. And I would say this again. I am very, very impressed. I've been in catfishing a long time. I've been in the promotion of catfishing a long time, and generally it's come a long way. I mean, even the new guys are so much farther along than they were 30 years ago or even 20 years ago. They really they really understand things that nobody understood 25 or 30 years ago. It was a squabble fest a long time ago, more like Facebook is now. But YouTube, everybody's pretty much generally agreeable. They're all positive. They're all wanting to learn. People like Dale Hayslip. He's been in on Epic Catfish since day one, and it's those kind of guys that it really makes a person feel good, because like look what he just said right now. Epic, I probably speak for the majority of people in chat, and thank you for what you bring to the catfish community. That is one of the biggest compliments you could ever have from, I don't know Dale, but I feel like I do. And I really like to hear his comments, and a lot of people. There's a ton of people, and I didn't know anybody. And then I start getting into chats and start doing this stuff, and it's really a good community of the same people that have been there day one. I mean, it's fantastic, and the more new people we get, the better it is. It's just fantastic. And Polar Bear is right, because Shawn's always talked to me about that. He's like, I get all depressed. We get crappy weather and whatever, and then he looks on YouTube, and somebody's catching fish somewhere.
Dude, I see Jonathan hook catfish out there lifting up big beast flatheads. That's like a hype video for me. It's like back in the day when we were in football, we used to watch like Crunch Course. You start getting your heart pounding a little bit. When I watch those flathead videos, it motivates me. Dude, I watching these guys' YouTube channel. It motivates me to go out and do it.
Yeah, and Greenwell, I've always looked at it like free information is the best information. It is one of the, and some people would disagree with the way I think. I think it doesn't matter if I like somebody and they're doing good for the catfish community. I don't care if they have 4 followers. I don't care if subscribers, whatever. I'll still go on their show, because if you're doing good for the community, you're a nice person, you're doing whatever, you're trying. I'm going to try to help. I mean, I don't know if there's anybody that likes to talk catfish as much as I do, and I've already kids with it so bad that they don't even want to hear another bit. And see, muskrat. If I had the time, I would fish with everyone. If I won the lottery tomorrow,
we were just talking about that today. I was saying, why don't we just go ahead and win a lottery, and we do whatever kind of fishing we want each day. We just go tear it up.
I'd go fishing with everybody in chat. I mean, I'd invite them here. I mean, but realistically, that can't happen because we all got to pay the bills. Great show, Kelly. Thanks for coming on the show, Epic. Thank you. Well, you're welcome, but I do. I really love it, and Shawn loves it too.
Yeah, Kelly. Yeah, thanks for inviting me on, man.
No problem at all, man. Hey, that's what I'm here for. I mean, I'm not getting out there and fishing as much as I want to, because of issues with work and the truck and all that stuff. But hey, I want to be able to get out there. I want to put a show together for people to learn. To see where people get their tackle. I mean, you've shown that you get some of the big game catfish stuff from Walmart. I mean, some people can go to Walmart and pick some of the stuff Vic uses.
I myself personally, I go out and I buy the cheapest I can, and I wear it out. I can't afford to go out for a bunch of expensive equipment. I buy the cheap stuff from a farm store here. That's like 14 miles away from home here, because we live out in BFE. I go in there and I buy cheap stuff, and like I say, you buy the cheap stuff and you wear it.
Yeah.
A lot of people want to start fishing and they want to go out. Well, they got to have the shiniest and the best and this and that. No, I tell you what, you go buy the cheap stuff and you wear that out, and then you tell me whether you need that expensive.
So since this is Tackle Talk Show, I've got something here, and I actually did a little bit of research on it on the internet. Not a lot, but just enough. It was $60. This is a Berkley shark reel, probably made in China. I'm not saying that that's a great thing, but for $60, it's got a giant handle. It's got a 4:3-to-1 ratio. It holds 300 yards of which sometimes I need of super line. This happens to be what is this stuff? See, I'm not really a tackle guy. I might get a gun game.
Yeah.
But it's crap. What was one of the first super lines? Power Pro is what it is. It's just Power Pro and gold. So far, I've been pretty impressed with this. And if it can hold up to me, because I'm really rough on stuff. I'm not a guy that goes out and rouses and stuff and whatever. I've got real rods that have cork handles that part of the finish is just fish scales all the way down. It's
slime.
cork and fish scales. I just looked at them on the porch.
Yes, it's got that slime. It's almost like that slime, that fish slime down into it.
Yeah, and like this thing, this 12-ounce sinker, it takes a toll on casting these things. And sometimes I'll take something like this and cast it 50, 60, 80 yards. I mean, I'm really going to put a whooping on it. And if it can hold up to me, I'm pretty impressed with it. So, I'm
absolutely.
Speaking for it.
Yeah, buy the cheap stuff and wear it out. If you wear it out and eventually you think you need to get something expensive, go ahead. What was that question? What was Stan saying there?
Here you go. I'll put it back up there.
Yeah, Stan. Thanks, Tim, and Catfish and Shawn, Catfish, for making us think about not only fishing but the fish itself. Yes. Yeah, when you're out there and you're competitive and you're trying to compete with yourself and you try to get in the mind of these things, you try to find every kind of advantage you can. That's your choice. It's whether you're a big buck, a big game hunter, or you're a cat fisherman or a bass fisherman. You're going to try to learn about that species and almost try to be that species or think like that species if you really want to be successful. And the fish brain right here, this guy, you guys only see mostly this catfishing, this stuff, but he's actually all around great fisherman for all species. I mean, down to the smallest to the biggest, It's just, he's a fishing this guy.
When it comes to fishing, if you want to be really good, and I'm not saying I'm the best, I'm just saying if you want to be really good, notice patterns. Start following what your bones tell you. Use your instinct. Get out there as much as you can and figure out, okay, what happened with this? Maybe it's a special trait. I don't know, because I have never forgotten. I could have went to a river 30 years ago and caught a fish of note on a spot, and I don't forget that spot. I forget my own name or my own birthday, but I don't forget where I caught a fish, in 1989 on this spot using this bait or whatever, because it's important to me. And yes, Muskrat Adventures, I know you would show up, and I'd be glad to have you anytime. I have expensive reels, but almost every one of my reels were secondhand that I bought. That's awesome, Greenwell. I love, matter of fact, some of the stuff I'm showing you right now, I bought from a buddy of mine who's a gigantic gearhead.
Well, it's Aaron, the guy on Aaron's 80. If you guys actually watch Epic Catfish, you'd see Aaron on Aaron's 80, the 80-pound Epic Fish.
That guy's got, he loves gear. He's got more catfish gear than Bass Pro. And it's all in his garage. He says, you know what, I'm never going to use this stuff. He goes, what do you think? You want to buy it? He gave me a great deal. I was happy to get it, because it's just that's just it.
Yeah.
Now I find myself actually saying, if I was a catfish, where would I be? Now, Roger, that's dangerous. that is a dangerous statement. And I'll tell you why. Because as long as you keep in mind that a catfish is a simple neurocortex creature that knows almost as much as it's ever going to know the second it's born, because it has inherited traits. It has generational learning over millions of years. They don't have the capacity to make decisions very well. They're very slow to learn, and they don't really remember anything unless it's absolutely pounded into their tiny brain. So the biggest problem that most anglers do, and I did it. I did the same thing. Well, where would I be? I would be where the bait fish are. I would be where it's warm. I would be whatever. But that's my human trait, my really evolved giant cerebellum, like everybody else has, making decisions based on our lives. But we know that catfish aren't smart because the situation is, if they were smart like every other creature, they would be nearly helpless for like the first 5 years of life. The smarter a creature is, the more helpless it is at birth. Catfish are not helpless at all. So, and I say smarter, catfish aren't dumb. They just do what they do. They're highly evolved to fit into the niche of what they're doing. It's actually a feat of evolution. But to relegate what we would do to what a catfish would do would be almost like what a human would do versus what a snake would do. And I often say that catfish and reptiles are not that far apart. The one thing about reptiles is we can see them interact on the surface. We don't have to guess what they're doing. So we know what snakes do. We know what land tortoises do. We know what other creatures do. And there's only a few things they do. They eat, they make babies, and they show themselves, and they pressure other parts of their they pressure others so that they can have an advantage. So we can take advantage of knowing this. They're simple, they make babies, and they eat, and they pressure other species or some of the same of their own species. And some of them are better than others. So you got flatheads that really, really put pressure to other, parts of their same genus. And then you have blues that pressure pretty good. And then you have channel cats that, if they have too much pressure, they're going to move because they're jacks of all trades. Blues are jacks of all trades as long as it's deep and swift, or if they're stuck in a power plant lake or whatever. And flatheads like that medium current and that stealthy approach and that live bait eating. So in a nutshell, that gives us advantage of thinking in their lines. And it's almost better, Roger, to say, if I could think like a catfish, what would I be doing? Not the other way around. And he probably meant that. He probably meant, okay, now that I can think like a catfish, now I can predetermine what I need to do, or I can go pattern 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can just, match the conditions, do a whole bunch of other stuff. All right, so I long-winded that to death.
Hey, that's perfectly fine. Because I've always thought about maybe if I thought about where the fish was, then I can go after them. But it's really not that. It's I need to know the areas. I need to know the structures. I need to know where they could be, because that's you go. Because that's where they're going. That's mostly where they're going to be at. Just not where I think they're going to be. I know where they're going to be setting up for food, where they're going to be hiding.
Yeah, it's not that I'm right every time, but it is more that I know what the most likely situation to happen, the second most likely, the third most likely, the fourth most, and on down the line. So I take a look, I take that whole situation into my head, say, okay, this is what's happened in the past. This is the trends that's going on. This is the water level. This is the whatever. So I've said it in a lot of these live chats. I've said current first, no matter what. It's what is that current doing? Now, if you're in lakes, you got to take that out of the equation. So it's current plus the appropriate depth for the time of year, whether it's pre-spawn, post-spawn, winter preservatory period. Yeah. Now we get into the cover. So it's cover. So it's current first, depth second, cover. And that will cover all three species because channel cats have a certain depth they prefer. Flatheads have a certain depth they prefer, and so do blues. Channel cats have a certain speed of current that they prefer. Flatheads have a certain speed, and so do blues. Now, blues and flatheads somewhat overlap, and so do channel cats. But you got to take that in mind. You got to say, okay, the more diverse it is, this green
was talking about a fisherman wanted to target flathead. New fisherman want to target flathead. Don't do it. Don't target flathead.
Right. Right. You want to be successful as a new fisherman, learn the other two first. But if
You'll learn how to be mentally tough.
That's right. If you want to learn flatheads and all you want to learn, all you have to do is figure that they're cover oriented. They like a certain speed of current, and they don't care where bait fish are, because where they live is where bait fish intersect. Okay, bait fish will be there no matter what. That's a given. Okay, so you got to learn the current first, the correct speed of current. Not too fast, it's like porridge. Not too fast, it's not too light. It's dead water, but it's not like it if they have a choice. Okay, so if you can find that, and you can throw live baits and fresh cut baits, throw it around and pay attention to every single situation you caught a flathead in, then, and it might take you a while, because I mean, when I first started flathead fishing, there was no information about it, almost none. So I fished way too fast with my live baits, ended up getting them killed by channel cats and blues, had almost no flathead action at all. I ended up throwing too big of baits because everybody said, you want a giant bait. No, I had to go down to this 3-ounce before I really started getting flathead. And you got to fish rivers that have flatheads in them, because I fished in Illinois. Nobody told me that the commercial fishing has wrecked the flathead fishing forever, and it's still like that. So I spent so much time throwing green sunfish and bluegills and suckers and live shad in the Illinois River. I was like, what am I doing wrong? Well, I had to investigate my river. I had to look at it. I had to look at it as a big picture. And all I had to do was, instead of going 30 miles one way, I had to go 50 miles the other way, and I was on flatheads almost immediately. Bang. So you got to
so you know the situation I'm in.
What's that?
I said, you know the situation where I'm in, because where I'm down here on Lake Cumberland, there's not really any catfish. There's no channels. There's no blues. So I've got to hunt flathead. That's the only thing I can go after.
Yeah, you are definitely better off at your stage in the game, wanting to be successful, going to a river that is it lends itself well to catfish.
Yeah,
Cumberland didn't have a whole lot of catfish when it was dammed, and the catfish population isn't that great because it's a deep, super clear water type situation. I fished it. I mean, you can have success, but it takes a lot of time. I mean, there are rivers and lakes where the average flathead fisherman that's decent spends 40 hours per fish. I don't like 20 minutes per fish. I want to be able to go look at stuff, target flathead stuff, and be able to be on a successful flathead bite in 30 minutes or less.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean that it always happens. But I wouldn't say I'm unhappy, but I have that drive to say, okay, if I'm going to go to the Wisconsin, I'm going to go to the Lower Spoon, I'm going to go to a whole host of rivers, 20, 25, 30 rivers. I want to be on flatheads within an hour. And then once I'm onto them, I want to be on them in 20 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and move.
Oh, yeah, and how we can have that kind of expectation is he's paid the time. He has put the time on the water. I mean, having a guy like him be able to spread all this information, I mean, that's unheard of. I mean, it's excellent to have that kind of information. But I always say, too, it's time on the water. Get your butts out there. Get out there.
Well, you can't catch nothing from the couch.
Yeah, and there's no substitute. You can listen to all this advice, but if you don't go out and bust it, get on the damn water and fish. And whatever your goals are, you go out and try to break them. You know, you want to start catching 20s, you get the 20s, and then we all want that bigger fish. We're not going to be happy with that 20, or we want 30s, we want 40s, you know, and so on. But all this stuff and all these expectations that he has might not be realistic to most people because they haven't gone out and busted the time, you know, and busted their butts on the water. You know, you go out when you target flatheads, you can actually go out and get pooped on. I mean, I was down to like maybe every 3 trips, I'd score a nice fish, maybe one out of 3 trips. You know, they're a fickle creature. And they're a little tougher, you know.
So I heard Shawn say one thing when I was over there. He said, my expectations, my not be normal for most people, which is true. But my expectations are not normal for even me because I have high expectations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I'll be in an area where I expect to catch 70 and 80 pound flatheads. But we know that doesn't happen. Doesn't matter who you are, where you fish. There is not that many 70, 80, 90 pound flatheads. Although I have caught a good amount of those in the past. But if you look at, if I were to look back in all my notes and all my whatever, I've caught a handful of 80s, one handful of 80 plus, and just a smidgen of anything that would go over 90. But I've done it because I expect it and I've driven to do it. Now, that just depends on what anybody wants to do. And, really, it's a big sacrifice. You got to run your life a certain way. You got to do this and do that, blah, blah, blah. But what I can do is I can use that experience and actually let people know how I did it, why I did it, and whatever, because no one was helping me. And that's one of the reasons why I help almost anybody. I mean, I will. If anybody asks me a question, I don't care where I'm at. I mean, I used to go on radio shows and people would be like, "Oh, can you catch catfish on jelly beans?" And I'm talking about catching 80 pound flatheads. We were way, way apart. Stan. We love Stan, by the way.
No, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You have to go out and hone the craft too. Once you get the information, you have to actually go out and apply it to yourself, your own abilities, and hone it, man. You got to get out there.
And the journey will take you as far as you want to go or as short as you want to go. It doesn't really matter. I mean, people don't have to look up, fill anybody else's expectations. That's one of the greatest things about the sport of catfishing. It is what you want to make it. It's, if you're happy catching 10 pounders, I'm jumping up and down. I'm like, yeah. But if you want to catch 50s, 80s, 100, blah, 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 there's a few people that want to do it, and that's fine. But if you go out and catch your personal best every time at 1 pound increments, I say that's what you do. Because if you skip, it's not as good of a journey.
Last night we sat down here at this small little river until midnight, catching 2 pound channel cats and had an absolute blast last night.
Yeah.
Hopefully we made a video out of it.
Would we rather go catch 100 pounders? Yes.
Sure.
Would we rather go catch 50 pounders? Yeah. But it's close. It's doable, and we did. It was actually a pretty good night because this thing's a creek, and we were catching locals. But at some point, if we get the right water, the big ones will come from the mother river, which I call this is the tribute. It's a major tributary of the Illinois River. Well, the average when I catch them on the Illinois River is between 5 and 15 pounds. Sometimes you get a shot at 16, 17. It's a rare thing, but they'll come all the way to the headwaters of this little river if we get the right water level. And it hasn't happened yet. We've actually caught 15, 16, 17 pound channel cats up here, all 90 miles from the mother river. Back.
All right.
Hey,
We got about 9
Hold on.
out here. Oh, all right. Hold on, you guys. He just left. He's got the link. He can get back in here in just a minute. But we got about 9 more minutes left of the show. Everybody, don't forget. I'll pull it up through there. Stan posted it just a minute ago. Make sure everybody jumps on Muskrat Adventures after the show at 8 o'clock. He will have Flint Hill on with him. So you can learn some stuff from Flint Hill and from Roger. Also, to make sure you hit the thumbs up. And if you want to support this channel and like any of the content that we have, make sure you do hit that link in the description. And we much appreciate it. No pressure, like Becca said.
Hold on a second. I gotta rinse.
they've got probably one of the worst signals back out there where they're at. So just bear with us this minute.
All right, I think it's better. Can you hear us, Kelly?
Yeah, right here.
Yeah.
So I was just letting them know. I was letting them know that we only have about 7 more minutes with the show. So I was just letting them know that they need to go over after this is over. Check out Roger with Flint Heel tonight. Immediately after this one. So. Y'all there? Good.
Yeah,
we're
good.
here.
Sound good?
My connection's so terrible.
We don't see you on the screen anymore, but whatever.
We can see our old faces though.
See your own faces? Let me see here.
Let me try this again.
All right.
See, when it's red, it's terrible, but now it's good.
Stan, I definitely will. If I have any questions, definitely will come after you to talk to you. But definitely. And you haven't linked up with Muskrats. There's the link Becca's putting out there. So definitely go over and show some love here in a little bit. And also, next week, we will have another special guest. And it will be Bumpin' Mike Greenwell. Will be our guest next week. So we'll be talking about some tackle on his side. So just make sure that you all definitely jump back in next week for us for that. Yeah, I know Whisker and Stripes. Yeah. Yeah, he almost made it to 2 hours. Yeah. Yeah, usually it's a lot less than that. He's having it all the way real easy. Here we go.
There we are.
We're back.
We're back. We had to
Can you see me now?
do the whole thing.
Can you see me?
Yep.
Yep.
You even sound
All right.
better.
All right.
You were sounding like a pigeon on a hot tin roof.
They're saying that you almost made it 2 hours. You had started having signal issues.
Yeah.
Must be a record.
Yeah,
That's a record.
that is.
But yeah.
So we talked about the Chinese reels and the burning shark. We
Yeah.
talked about the big stuff. But normally, I just use a 4 or 5 ounce egg sinker, 80-pound test leader, and a 7 to 10-aught circle hook when I'm targeting blues. Then I'll switch from a 5 to a 7-aught. Same situation with flatheads. Then I'll change from a 2 to 5-aught with channel cats. And really, just keeping it simple is the big thing. I mean,
Yeah.
it really is. I mean, Shawn's thrown rigs that he's had on the same rod for, because he doesn't have a lot of snags. He's not casting into rocks.
I suspend off the sides of those long, those big lock walls. And,
Yeah. Well, I mean, if it works, if it's working, why change it?
What's that one?
If your rig is working, why change it?
No doubt.
Exactly. I've been known to clip off all the Christmas tree stuff when my friends come on the boat. They got demon dragons and propellers and all this other.
Oh yeah, the little rattles. Yeah.
And I'm not saying demon dragons don't work, because we were in a situation where Demon Dragons, we switched all over to Demon Dragons, even at like the crazy spots in Alton, because they were working. When they're working and the current's not preventing it from happening right, it's a good thing. But
yeah,
you know, when it's not working, you just got to cut your losses. And you go,
well, I mean, you were there the other night that in the live my brother was Chesapeake Bay catfishing where you caught those couple channels. They were on Santee rigs.
Yep. Yep.
But his Carolina rig, he wasn't getting no bites on.
Yep.
So it was just that certain rig keeping that bait up just right. So certain rigs work for certain ones.
And listening to the fish is the best thing you can do. If you go out and they're telling you one thing, it's hard if they're not telling you anything. But if they're telling you, hey, I like this, the Christmas tree and stuff, that's right. So if they're telling you that they don't like the Christmas tree and it's not allowing you to present baits correctly, cut them off. If they're telling you that they like the Christmas tree ornaments, well, maybe you need to put some more out. But keep your mind open. Sometimes I use slip floats in areas that a lot of people wouldn't. Sometimes I'll use a whole situation that's like way different. But you just got to listen to the fish and see what they're telling you, and then you gravitate towards it, and usually it pays off. Sometimes it doesn't, but most of the time it does.
Yeah. Get your butts out and fish.
Yeah.
Go fish.
And just like kind of going over what you were already saying.
What's up?
Like what Stan says is basically just listening to the fish, what the fish are telling you. Watch the patterns.
That's absolutely right. And you know, and I even get stumped sometimes. I really do. I got 30 years of experience under my belt, but I'll get stumped occasionally. I'll go in a preconceived notion because this is what usually happens this time of year. Blah blah blah. I go visit those areas. Fish aren't being cooperative. I'm using certain baits. Fish aren't being cooperative, and I've got to change. Time and time again. Sometimes it takes me an entire day, or sometimes an entire weekend to get on. Sometimes there's nothing you can do. Sometimes they are just in a negative mood. They're just not eating. I know I put it in their face, and they just don't do it. And we usually tell you that in our videos. I mean, we don't profess to go out there and just slay them every time. When we do, we'll normally tell you too. We're like, oh yeah, this has been on fire. Barn burner. You know, I mean, last night it was as predictable as it could have been. Tell them what I told you.
Yeah, there's a certain part that he was fishing under a little root ball over there, and he done told me that at the get-go, that's where all the bites are going to come from. And sure enough, they did. So I strategically placed myself in front of that rod. So I could really fish last night.
Yeah. All right. I think I just got the notification that Roger was going live. Shawn, Epic, if you all have any last information for anybody that's still in chat on any tackle, any information, this is your time to give your last words.
Yeah, like I said earlier, people get into the sport, go out, and you can find, it doesn't matter if you're doing a cheap Chinese rigs, whatever. Buy them, go out, wear them out. If they wear out, get another one. You don't have to start trying to do this sport with the top-notch equipment or this and that. Or you buy secondhand or look online, you know, find cheaper gear. I mean, a lot of my gear goes through a lot of damage. I mean, hauling my rods and reels up and down the tow path all the time, loading, unloading. I wouldn't want to have expensive gear, you know, when doing that kind of stuff because I know exactly what's going to happen. Expensive gear.
Yeah.
It's going to be expensive to jump.
Yeah.
You know, that's about my only one that I have is getting into the sport. You know, you fish for what you have, what your body of water is, what kind of fish you have around you, and go out and get good at it. You know, put time on the water. You can take all this advice and listen to all
this. Always
until you go out and actually start casting rods and doing this and that and trying to go through adversity on the water. That's another thing too. There's a lot of variables out there. Get out and fish as much as you can.
Yeah. All right, Tim, you have anything to?
Time on the water. Here comes Epic back. He's probably got something.
Yeah.
Kelly, thank you very much for inviting me on tonight. It was awesome. Everybody, like I said,
Shawn, stick around for after we end. We'll talk a little bit before we leave completely.
Yeah. Fish as much as you can. That's all I say. Get out and do it.
Yeah.
Shawn,
Right.
there's no substitute for time on the water. There really isn't.
No.
Because honestly, there's been some situations, even though catfish are catfish no matter where they swim, there's still some situations that even surprise me when I go other places. Because the nature of the water, the nature of the fish is still the same, but yet they'll do a little bit differently because it pays off for them. It continually pays off. Because I used to run in closing. I'm going to try not to get too scientific, but generally speaking, if every river was exactly the same, every catfish would do exactly the same thing. They would, no matter if it's in South America, Africa, or here, lakes, rivers, whatever. But things are different, so you got to pay attention to what's going on in your waters. And we all know this because if you look at tournament results, you will see the locals a lot of times whoop up on people, especially in lakes, because they've spent the time on the water. They know where the fish, hang out. And it's a tough thing for somebody to come 3 states away and whoop up on their tournament. They either got to get a little bit lucky or they got to really, really, really know what they're doing. But it's mostly in a lake. They got to fall into that right situation, or they got to have looked at the map and guessed correctly. So if you're in a river that has a flow, whether it's fast flow, deep, fast flow, shallow, slow flow, medium, or slow flow, deep, like a big lake river system, you're going to have to put time on the water to learn the tendencies of those fish and what presentations that they're going to like at the time. Because just because you caught a bunch of fish July 4th one year doesn't mean you're going to catch a lot of fish doing the same thing in July, in August. It's going to be a little bit different. But once you learn the tendencies of fish, of what they do, no matter what or no matter where they're there, you're at least close in that ballpark. And I've proved it over my life. I've been able to go to places I've never been and do really good. Okay, so I mean, it's just one of those things. But sometimes it's not as easy. My local stuff, I know right where to go. When I'm on new waters, I have to apply a few different places. I mean, Greenwell will tell you. Any of those guys that do tournaments, they're going to tell you. I mean, you know too, Kelly. You go to a lot of new stuff, so you got to really, but stick with what you know first before you cancel it out. My advice is not to go like off the top of your head and start doing crazy things. A lot of guys that, whether they're in tournaments or whether they're on vacation or whatever, they start doing crazy things, and they forgot. They said, "Okay, I'm doing what I know." And then they go totally bonkers off the walls because they read in an article or somebody was saying this crazy thing or saying that.
Yeah.
So I would probably advise against that. Stick with what you know, keep it going, change your presentation, because sometimes, yesterday they were in slower water and tomorrow they're going to be in the fastest water available. Now, you can go and do spots that you've done well on the bank, and then you're in a boat and you're not presenting it right because there's no sweep to the current. The ledge, you can't effectively do that. But remember one thing too. I've always said this: if you're in a boat, accurate and consistent type, correct anchoring is the key to being able to catch fish. Because you can be in a spot that there's fish and be anchored not correctly on it, and you won't catch fish. There's so many times when I've only moved a boat width over because I knew I wasn't right. I'm casting stuff out, then I move a boat width over or a boat width up, or boat length up or a boat length down, and then now I'm correctly positioned on these fish, and we just bust the tires off. And so I mean that's kind of why I called it epic catfish, because it's not really the spots I'm going to, it's the way I fish it, and with enough whatever, I'm finding the epic spots within the spots. Because a lot of people try to fish the spots I do, and they don't do very well because they're kind of hairy scary, and they just don't do very well. And a lot of the spots is being prepared with enough of the different weights, different baits, different presentations, and being able to capitalize on that almost no matter what the conditions are. I mean, I've tucked on the up the upwind side of giant barges and just parked underneath it because it was a hurricane type rain, and it was miserable for a while, but we stuck it out. We didn't just go to the boat ramp. We stuck that out, and we ended up catching 50, 60, 70, 80 pound fish after that. I mean, we've stayed till 4 o'clock in the morning on the last day to the last bait and did it. And fair weather catfishermen, and I don't care if you're fair weather or not. I'm just saying I'm not fair weather, and I'm going to do the military operation if I have to. And you've heard me say that, and you'll hear me say it again, to where when it's a grindhouse, if you're going to put fish in the boat, it's time to grit your teeth, clench your fist, and freaking go. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't really matter. But that's what I like to do. I like to win. That's it.
Yeah. All right, guys. Everybody's still in chat. This has been another good episode of What Is in Your Tackle, with special guest Tim Scott with Epic Catfishing and Shawn with Catfish Hero. Again, next week we will have Bumpin' Mike Greenwell on the show. So we'll be talking about bumping a lot, because that's one thing that I really want to learn. Because I've been hearing that you can do some bumping from the bank. So I'm going to be definitely taking notes on that one when we're talking about that. So Tim and Shawn, stick around for a little bit when we end, so we can still talk a little bit. For everybody else, make sure you do go over to Roger at Muskrat Adventures and check out with Flint Hill Catfishing, and we will see you all next time. Peace out, everybody.
Oh, sweet. Shawn turned me on to Flint Hill. Great guy. Beautiful water.
Yeah.
Does a great job on videos. I advise everybody to follow and watch Flint Hill stuff, because it's a good time. And you'll learn some.
Yeah, absolutely. So stick around, guys. Everybody, we'll see you next time. Peace out.